In the deepest parts of the forest, there's a lake that everyone warns you to stay away from, especially after the sun goes down. But there was one person who didn't listen. An old woman who would walk to its shore every single evening without fail. Why would she risk her life to visit such a forbidden place? The answer is far more terrifying than you could ever imagine. Her name was Miriam. In the village, she was known simply as the quiet widow who lived at the edge of the woods. After her husband passed away, she kept to herself, finding solace only in her solitude. But her most peculiar habit was her nightly pilgrimage to the cursed lake. As the sun began to bleed across the horizon, casting long skeletal shadows through the trees, Miriam would begin her walk. The villagers would watch her go, whispering among themselves, wondering what drew her to that place of dread. They never dared to follow. The lake itself was ancient, a dark mirror nestled in the heart of the woods. During the day, it was deceptively calm, but as twilight fell, a chilling silence would descend upon it. Locals swore the water was cursed, a gateway to something sinister that awakened after dark. They spoke of a thick, unnatural fog that would roll in without warning, swallowing everything in its path. It was a place where nightmares were born, yet for Miriam, it was a sanctuary. One evening, as the last rays of sunlight vanished, the air grew unnaturally still. Miriam sat on her usual rock by the water's edge, her lips moving silently, whispering prayers or perhaps just words of comfort to herself. The forest held its breath. Then, a sudden splash echoed from the center of the lake, sharp and loud in the suffocating quiet. A wave of cold washed over her, so intense it felt like stepping into a frozen tomb. The temperature plummeted, and goosebumps erupted on her arms. Before she could even react, the infamous fog began to pour in from the trees, thick and white, like a living entity. It swirled around her, obscuring the path back to the village, trapping her by the shore. The silence was broken only by the frantic beating of her own heart. She was completely isolated, surrounded by a white void. Through a small break in the dense fog, Miriam saw something that made her blood run cold. Across the dark, still water, she saw her own reflection. But it wasn't a reflection. This version of her was standing, not sitting. As Miriam stared, frozen in terror, her double didn't mimic her movements. It stood perfectly still, a dark silhouette against the pale mist. Then slowly, its head tilted, and a wide, unnatural smile stretched across its face, a smile that was filled with malice and an ancient hunger. This was no trick of the light. This was something else, something that had been waiting for her. Just as a scream began to build in her throat, the reflection, her doppelganger, not to wave but as if to wave, but as if to beckon her forward. A voice, raspy and distorted, yet undeniably her own, drifted across the water, carried on the chilling air. It whispered a single word, a name that echoed in the deepest recesses of her soul. Miriam. The voice was coming from her own smiling reflection. She was trapped face to face with a nightmare that knew her name. And the black water of the lake separated them like a pane of glass just waiting to be shattered. The story doesn't end here. It's just the beginning. Make sure you're following because you won't want to miss what happens next. I see you, Miriam. No, don't look away. Not a trick of the light, not some distorted memory playing in your head. I am real. I am your reflection, and I remember what you did. This lake. This lake remembers everything. It all started years ago, didn't it? The sun was warm. The sky was a perfect, cloudless blue. You brought her here, your little girl, her laughter echoing across the water. The lake seemed so peaceful that day, its surface like polished glass, inviting you both closer. She was just at the edge, her small hands splashing, creating tiny ripples. You were watching, smiling, lost in the perfect moment. Then, in a blink, she slipped. The calm surface broke, swallowing her whole. You lunged forward, your hand outstretched, but then you stopped. Just for a second. One single eternal second where fear held you frozen. You saw her wide, panicked eyes looking up at you from beneath the water, her small hands reaching, but you couldn't move. It was just a moment of shock, a paralyzing terror. And in that moment, the lake pulled her down deeper and deeper until she was gone. The villagers called it a tragic accident, a terrible, unforeseen event. They offered their condolences, their pity. They told you not to blame yourself, that there was nothing you could have done. But you knew the truth, didn't you, Miriam? You knew that in the one moment that mattered most, you hesitated. You failed. That single second of inaction has been replaying in your mind ever since, a silent film of your deepest shame. And the guilt. Oh, the guilt became its own monster. You started hearing her voice, not just in your dreams, but in the quiet moments of the day. Soft whisper carried on the wind through the rustling leaves. Mommy? Why didn't you save me? It wasn't an echo of a memory. It was an accusation. Followed you, clung to you, a constant reminder of the truth you tried to bury. The real horror wasn't the lake. It was the voice in your head, the weight on your soul. That heavy, crushing guilt made every shadow seem menacing, every creak of the floorboards a footstep from the past. You tried to stay away from here, but you couldn't, could you? Something always pulled you back to the water's edge. Every time you returned, things got stranger. The water level would rise, creeping up the bank, even when there hadn't been a single drop of rain for weeks. You'd feel it, wouldn't you? A sudden, bone-chilling cold seeping up from the ground. Unseen hands, slick and cold, would brush against your ankles, trying to pull you in. The whispers started then. Not just her voice, but others. Murmurs from just beneath the surface, ancient and hungry. A thick, unnatural fog would roll in from the center of the lake, swallowing the shoreline, erasing the path you took to get here, leaving you stranded, alone with the rising water and the voices that knew your name. You were trapped, not just by the fog, but by your own past. And now here we are. Look at me, Miriam. Look into my eyes. I am the you that remembers. I am the truth you tried to drown. You left her here. You let the water take her, and now it wants you too. See? I'm no longer just a reflection. I'm stepping out. The water doesn't pull me under. It holds me up. It serves me. This lake isn't just water and mud, Miriam. It has a will, a memory, and it has been waiting for you. It's been waiting for you to come back and pay your debt. I'm getting closer now. Can you feel the cold? My eyes? I know they look empty, but they see everything. They see your fear. They see your guilt. They see that one single second replaying over and over. You want to scream, don't you? You want to run. But your feet are rooted to the spot, just like they were all those years ago. Your voice is caught in your throat. You can't move. You can't make a sound. You can only watch as I get closer and closer. Miriam tried to scream, but the sound was stolen from her throat, swallowed by the roar of the lake. Miriam tried to scream, but the sound was stolen from her throat, swallowed by the roar of the lake. It wasn't just water. It was a living, breathing entity, a deafening chorus of churning waves and ancient whispers that promised no escape. She was trapped, a fly caught in a watery web, and the spider was finally coming to claim her. Her own reflection stood before her, not on the surface of the lake, but on the damp shore, solid as flesh and bone. Every detail was perfect, the same tired lines around her eyes, the same graying strands in her hair. But the eyes, they were void, lifeless. Two dark pools mirroring the lake's own soulless depths. When it spoke, the voice was a chilling echo of her own, devoid of anger, filled only with a calm, absolute certainty. You were never going to leave, it said. This place has been waiting. You were always meant to come back. The water surged, rising with unnatural speed. First it licked at her ankles, then her knees, its icy grip a stark contrast to the humid night air. A powerful unseen force pulled her, dragging her step by reluctant step toward the dark expanse. As the cold consumed her, memories flared in her mind like dying embers. Her daughter's laughter echoing across this very shore. The small hand she let go of for just a second. A lifetime of guilt, a mountain of regret, all of it crashed down on her at once. The fear that had kept her away for decades now merged with a strange, horrifying sense of acceptance. She was returning to the scene of her greatest failure. The fight drained out of her. Her legs grew heavy, her breath hitched, and she stopped resisting the pull. A horrifying clarity pierced through her panic. The lake wasn't just water. It was a predator that fed on sorrow. It had tasted her grief all those years ago and had been starving for it ever since. It hadn't forgotten her. It had waited patiently, knowing that the unfinished business in her heart would one day lead her back to its shore. Her terror didn't vanish, but it transformed. The frantic struggle for survival gave way to a silent, hopeless dread. She was not just drowning, she was being consumed. The next morning, the sun rose over a placid, almost beautiful scene. Worried villagers, alerted by her abandoned car, fanned out along the shoreline. They called her name, their voices thin and hopeful against the vast silence. They found only one trace of her, her worn woolen shawl, caught on a low-hanging branch at the water's edge, damp with morning dew. There were no footprints leading to the water, no signs of a struggle in the soft mud. The lake's surface was like glass, perfectly still, betraying nothing. It was as if she had simply dissolved into the mist. As one of the younger villagers knelt by the water, hoping to spot something beneath the surface, he froze. A reflection stared back, but it wasn't his own. There, just beneath the shimmering surface, was an old woman. It was Miriam, her hair now completely white, floating motionlessly in the deep. Her eyes were open, and on her face was a serene, unnatural smile. She hadn't drowned, she had become part of the lake's collection, another ghost bound to its depths. The story became a local legend, a cautionary tale whispered to anyone who wandered too close to the water's edge. They say if you listen closely on a quiet night, you can still hear the lake. It whispers promises of peace, of reunion, of letting go of your deepest regrets. But they warn you, never answer its call, because the lake is always hungry, and those who listen too closely never, ever leave. Thank you for watching. Stories of the strange and unexplained call to you. Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. You never know what mysteries are waiting just beneath the surface.